Hey, it's me again, your favorite, I hope, free-to-play, low-budget player. I am low-budget, I'm not free. I used to be. But as it is, I kind of buy 3 packs a month, which is nothing in the scheme of things. Definitely not going to turn me into a titan in any hurry. And I do have a lot of sympathy with people who are trying to play the game for free. How many troops should you have? I used to be a big proponent of going troops light. When I say troops light, I mean being able to hide all your troops, except for 1 or 2 marches that you have in play, and that if you do get hit and burned with those troops, it's really not the end of the world, because they go to infirm, maybe they go to sanctuary, some of them, but you don't really get reds if you're attacked. And if you get zeroed, it's not a big loss. So I used to say, just go troops light, because people were having huge comps and then getting zeroed and leaving the game, because it takes 6 to 8 months to recover a halfway decent comp under the old rules of the game. The game's rules have changed, and that means that I felt it was important to discuss this how many troops question again. Whereas before I said you've got 2 choices. You can go troops heavy, but then if you get zero, do be aware you're going to lose a lot of troops. You're going to be left with like 1 or 2 million troops, 2 million troops, mostly tier 2. That doesn't exist anymore. What happens now if you get zeroed is that you lose 10 to 20% of your troops, and they will primarily be your lower tier troops. So recovery is actually quite fast. 20% can still be a lot if you have a lot of troops. 10% can still be a lot if you have a lot of troops. But it's just not the train smash that it used to be, and you will still be functional after that, especially if you had a lot of troops when you got hit. So the argument for troops light is a lot less strong than it used to be. I think it is still valid if you have a very small castle and anybody can burn you, but you do want to play and you want to hit other small castles. Then I would say to you, it's probably a good idea to be relatively troops light, because then when people hit you, you can laugh at them. Meanwhile, you can save up your speeds, do a big push, and get yourself to rally traps status pretty quickly at one point. But in the meantime, just keep your troops low and have fun. Even solo trap status, you're not going to get hit so super quickly. But, if you clearly look like a target, make sure that you're not presenting much of a target. Okay, so that is the one time when troops light really does I think makes sense. But now troops light does not make sense anymore if you've got an even halfway decent account, because when you get so-called zeroed, you're far from zeroed. You're actually going to recover a lot of your troops very, very quickly. Your permadead are actually quite few. What's going to take long is getting your troops out of sanctuary. It takes a little while to get these guys out of sanctuary, and if you've got tier 5, that's another matter. But okay, so how many troops should you have if you are a castle with tier 2, 3, 4? What should you get? I've been hearing lately that solo traps with tier 3 ranged front are quite good. But I would like to point out that being a solo trap is probably the most boring way to play the game. It's not really, I wouldn't do it on a main account. This is something you do on a secondary account. Because at some point you're going to want to go beyond being a solo trap. And then those tier 3 are going to be poisoned, because when a rally hits a tier 3 batch of troops, it is ugly. And you quite potentially going to lose on a defense if you have tier 3 in your castle and you are rallied. So assuming that you are perpetually going to grow and you're not going to bonsai your account as a solo trap, tier 3 doesn't really make sense. Not for a main account. I'm not going to go into tier 3 solo traps, because it's just something I heard. It's not something I know a lot about. But what should you shoot for as your initial goal? And I'm showing my comp. Oh dear. And as you see, tier 5s are really hard to keep alive. Got those for Christmas. Whacked them. About half of them dead by New Year. But anyway, it was fun. Okay, so here you can see I've got 1.2 million of each tier 4. I would like to have more, but initially this is a good target to shoot for. Shoot for 1.2 million each tier 4. But as you're doing that, keep training up your tier 2s. And as you can see, I've got 4 million roundabout of each tier 2, which means that I can now start growing my tier 4s again, because the ratio you're really looking at roundabout is about 3.5 million tier 2s, and I stand corrected. I think some people say 3 million, but at least 3 million to 3.5 million of each tier 2. And then you want around about 1.2 million of each tier 4. And with that, if you're awake, and if you're not getting hit by an express train, a freight train, you probably should be able to take at least one rally in talents and gear and being awake. Of course, you also get, there are a lot of variables. You could get hit by a weak player. And in that case, well, you've really got it made, because then you're just going to start eating rallies. I can eat rallies with this. I'm relatively confident about it. There are still some players that, look at the guy's full mythic champ, and I'm like, no. But I mean, I haven't tried. This is my main account. I don't spend a lot on it. I don't really want to get whacked too hard. But yeah, even if I did, the amount of troops that I would lose would not even be 20% of my full comp, because it would be one rally and then I shield, presumably, if I'm online. And then I wouldn't lose, actually, very much if I'm online. We have to remember that. But yeah, so in short, that is what you're looking to do. My comp is very clean. I don't have any tier 3s. You want to have a look again? Go ahead. Fortunately, you're not in my kingdom. I do not have any tier 3s to speak of. I have tier 2s, I have tier 4s, and I have tier 5s. I've got a teeny tiny cushion at the bottom here of tier 1s. It's another thing you don't want too many of. It's going to wreck the way you can handle attacks, because they die too quickly, wrecks your morale, and there's a better chance you're going to get a march back from your opponent, and your opponent's going to be able to see your comp if he gets a march back. If you eat him, he doesn't get a report, he doesn't get your comp. So you don't want to have a lot of tier 1. You do want to have a couple in case somebody hits you with a Pyrus. But your main focus is your tier 2, your tier 4, yeah, just to an extent your tier 5. If you get that far, I never thought I would, and if you can actually keep them alive. So at the moment, I'm not actually prioritizing my tier 5. I want to get my tier 4s up. Probably I want to get them over 1.3 million all before I start converting more tier 4s into tier 5s. I'm a bit new to tier 5, so... But yeah, keeping them alive isn't too easy. So I just want to make sure my tier 4s are where I want them, which is 1.2 million at least of each. So I don't want to convert too many tier 4s, and then I've got too few tier 4s versus my tier 5s. So yeah, any comment on this, please feel free. I'm always open to learn. But if you are wondering how many troops you should make, and you're just kind of starting out, I would suggest, if you haven't got tier 4 yet, train quite few tier 3, maybe just a march of each, and really focus on your tier 2s, because at some point you're going to get tier 4s, and then you actually want to kill all your tier 3s, which is what I did. In one way or another. You can do it the fun way, or you can just dismiss them. But you want to get rid of your tier 3s so that you've got a fairly clean comp if you want to eat rallies of tier 2 and tier 4. And you want at least 1.2 million each tier 4, and you want at least 3 million each tier 2. More is better, but that ratio is good, and you can maintain that ratio and keep going. Of course, the other variables, such as what are your stats, I'm not going to go into that because that gets just way too complicated. But as far as troops training goes, that's around about what you're aiming for. That's about it. Have a good day.